3 years. What is up? What is up? What is up, my friends? Hello. I hope you've had a lovely week. I've had a cool week. I've been practicing my electric unicycle. I've been riding my bicycle. Just yesterday, went with a few friends to ride on the Santa Ana River Trail. So yeah, hope you're cool. Warm and cordial salutations and welcome back to another week. I want to start this week's module with a joke. It's quite a cool one. It has to do with bees. Take a look at it. Why do bees have sticky hair? Because they use honeycombs. Imagine having a comb made of honey. Whose hair would not get sticky, right? With a comb like that. Okay. Let's take a look at our syllabus so that we can check out the signposts that we have ahead for this week. We're at Module 2. Wow, we're moving quickly. We have our first essay. We have our first thematic unit, which is Textual Analysis, which is a big part of 103. So, without further ado, let's dive into it by going into our Canvas page. First thing you're going to notice is the other video is on textual analysis. So that's going to be the next video that you're going to watch. And here is the PowerPoint lecture for that. Here's the handout, which is how you're going to get credit for this lecture. And that's going to be due at the end of this module by next Sunday. So here's the assignment link as well as the handout itself. So watch the video on textual analysis. And here's the actual PowerPoint. So you can follow along. Yep. Oh, look at this. I've got everything. I got the handout. I got the PowerPoint. This is the article that is going to go with our textual analysis lecture. And vocab, some of the vocab words that we look through in this textual analysis lecture. Hope you enjoy it as much as I did making it. Okay, so I would recommend pausing this video and going to watch the textual analysis lecture and doing the handout and all of that, and returning to this video afterward because, yeah, you could just pause it and minimize it and watch the other one. The reason is because this prompt is actually grounded upon the knowledge that you learn in this textual analysis lesson, right? So after you watch the textual analysis lecture and you've gone through the handout, here is our paper and it will make sense. Now you can resume this video. Okay, so here's the prompt. I want you to click here, entertainment as political, and we're going to, I like to download my documents. Ooh, very cool. I love these pictures. Okay. Let's see what we got. We got Dr. Seuss here. Avatar. Did you guys ever see that? That is highly illogical, Captain. Spock from Star Trek. I Love Lucy. Okay. Just entertainment? What's it mean? That's our task, right? What's it mean? That's the main thing for what we're going to do here with textual analysis. Entertainment as political. Okay, first of all, I want to make something clear. When I say political, I don't necessarily mean something that pertains to government compulsorily, but rather ideology. I'm using it interchangeably with a thought, with the idea of ideology and value. If I were to ask you, okay, what politics are reflected in the film that you just viewed? It's like saying, what are the ideas, what are the values, right, that are reflected? So that's what I mean. Ideas and values, messages. So yeah, don't. I've had some students think, oh man, does this mean I have to choose something, a cultural artifact that has to do with government necessarily? No. All you're doing really is you're unpacking the message, the deeper meaning of your cultural artifact. So let's get into this. Through our look at semiotics, by the way, semiotics is the study of signs and symbols. So at any time that you look at a cultural artifact, a piece of cultural artifact, whether that's a movie, whether that's a video game, whether that's a music video, whether that is an episode of the old Twilight Zone, which I love, by the way, that when you're doing the work of textual analysis within a cultural artifact, that's semiotics. Just FYI. Okay. Through our look at semiotics, we've seen that entertainment can indeed be political and carry with its own connotation. So, entertainment, pieces of cultural artifacts can carry with them their own ideas, their own values, their own representation of concepts, right? Now is your chance to contribute to the conversation with a cultural analysis of your own. Ooh, okay. First of all, let's talk about a cultural artifact. A cultural artifact, which is all this stuff, can be a movie, a book, a video game, a TV series episode, Netflix series, music video, comedy sketch, an episode, I don't know, an episode of South Park. Choose one cultural artifact. So cultural artifacts are very important because they're so widely disseminated and they have such a large audience base that their representation and portrayals and ideas and values are viewed by so many people because they have that far reach, right? So that's why it matters. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to write an essay that examines a cultural entertainment artifact. So something you've always thought is cool. Whether that's Pink Floyd's The Wall film, whether that is a particular music video, whether that is, like I said, I love the Twilight Zone, I love Star Trek, it's so cool for it. Something that you've always looked at and you're like, man, that's so interesting. I'd love to discover this more, to unpack it more, whatever that cultural artifact may be. Here's the trick for this one though. You want to focalize your attention as much as possible. So let's say you are going with saying like the old Twilight Zone series, choose one episode. Let's say you're going with Stranger Things, right? Which is on Netflix. Choose one episode. Let's say you're going with a music video. Choose one music video. Let's say you want to do, for this one, it's really good, is picture books. Choose one picture book. Dr. Seuss is awesome. Shel Silverstein, The Giving Tree. And actually what we're going to be doing this week, I just want to confirm that, is going to help your thinking of what this task is, because what we're doing here with the Sneetches, it's the same exact task ultimately that you'll be doing with this paper. So you're going to first, step one, choose a cultural artifact of something that you care about. One, right? Focalize your attention upon it. One. Then here's your primary task. You're going to unearth the ideological work that said artifact does. In other words, you're going to discover what it's about, right? What is this deeper message? What is this larger takeaway? Because the thing with cultural artifacts, particularly works of fiction, is that the resolution, the way that the conflict is resolved, is ultimately what you as a viewer, listener, are left with, right? In other words, the way that a movie ends, you're left with an ultimate takeaway, an ultimate message, right? And that's what your task here is, to unpack, to unearth whatever that deeper, larger message is. And just like we saw in the textual analysis lecture, pieces of entertainment, they will glorify an idea or value, or at the same time they'll vilify another one, right? And we see this through characters. A character is never just a character. They always represent an idea or value. Like, let's think about, for example, maybe you're looking at an episode from Batman, the animated series. So the protagonist, Batman, what values does he embody? I don't know. Maybe virtue. Maybe seeking out justice. Maybe fairness. Maybe courage. Right? What about, say, an antagonist? Maybe the antagonist maybe we're looking at Two-Face, right? Two-Face is impulsive, although he does use his little coin to make his decisions. Violent, psychotic. See how all those are values of the antagonist in this case? So within a cultural artifact, the protagonist, the values of the protagonist will be the values and ideas that are being celebrated or hoisted by the cultural artifact. And conversely, the ideas and values of the antagonist will be the ideas and values that are vilified or damned by the cultural artifact. So bear that in mind, okay? For this one, like just like we're gonna see with the Sneetches activity. And by the way, if you want to do it on the Sneetches, you absolutely can. You can continue your work. But picture books is a really good choice for this assignment. If you've always loved The Giving Tree or Goodnight Moon or something from Dr. Seuss, a picture book is really good. Or Shel Silverstein. Oh yeah, I already said The Giving Tree. Okay. Okay, here's what you need to really tattoo in your brain. A good potential model to build a thesis for this paper is as follows. Here's like the primary task, really. You're unpacking what's the larger message, theme, or takeaway of your artifact. What are you left with? Because let's say it's a movie. After watching a movie, they're not just going to say, hey, you, viewer, thank you for devoting 2.5 hours to watching our film. Here is the ultimate message that we want to leave you with. No one's going to really break the fourth wall and directly address you like that. No. You have to do textual analysis. You have to unearth this and discover what's the ultimate takeaway. And my hopes is that after watching the textual analysis lecture and going through that you'll be able to do the work of textual analysis. And in this case, do the work of a semiotician now that you're working with a cultural artifact for this paper. Okay, so here's what you're going to be doing. A good potential model to build a thesis for this is as follows. What's the larger message or theme or takeaway of your artifact? What are you left with? How does your artifact reflect this? So it's not enough to just say that it reflects it, but you got to say how it reflects this. Does it do it through what the protagonist represents versus what the antagonist represents? Does it do it through maybe it's a music video that is having some direct references to real life, to historical examples, allusions, right, to real life. One that has a lot of allusions because it's an allegory is Pink Floyd's The Wall. That it's a very conceptual film. It has the overall theme is isolation. It has a lot of direct symbolism and parallels to Nazi Germany, right? Okay, so the fact that I discovered that, okay, I saw it through the visuals, the fact that through the visuals there's parallels to real life, or maybe you're looking at a song, a music video, I don't know, maybe you're looking at Public Enemy, Fight the Power. So if you're looking at a music video, what's happening visually and what's happening lyrically, right? So make it clear, and you want to unearth how it reflects this. If you're looking at a picture book, what's happening in the illustrations, what's happening in the actual writing itself, in the actual text. Do you see, for example, that something rhymes when it's like an important point? Do you see, for example, that the author is using metaphors and similes to I don't know, to bring a point home, or that's what we mean. How does it reflect this? If it's an episode of, say, Twilight Zone, or people have done Black Mirror, then how is the artifact reflecting this larger message? How is it doing it? How is it doing it? That's what you got to answer. Okay, so what is the larger takeaway or message or theme of your artifact? How is it reflecting it? And then if there's any connections to real life, make sure to say that. And then answer the implications, the so what. Here's why this message matters. Here's why it's a big deal. Here's why it's important, right? Yeah, so ultimately it's just the same task as what we're doing with the textual analysis. So everything we did with the propaganda posters in the lecture, what we did with the Onion article. So that's the main thing, is that your thesis is not just denotation. It's not a task to say, okay, hello, in the Lion King, there's a little cub called Simba. His father, Mufasa, is the king. There's a jealous king called Scar. Like, you're not just detailing all the plot points. Sure, you will use plot points to help prove your further claim, your further discovery of this larger takeaway or message, but it's not necessarily your thesis, right? There's a pitfall in this paper, and that is that students can just get into this mode of just summarizing everything without rhyme or reason. That's not really the task. The task is for you to tell me, what's the larger message or takeaway of this? How do you see it reflected in your artifact? And which actually, that's a little nuance. How you see it reflected, that's where you can bring in some plot points or things like that from surface level to demonstrate that. But ultimately, it's you as the writer who is navigating this, right? You're the lawyer. Your voice is the most prominent one in this paper. What I say with the lawyer is that there's a courtroom example when you're writing an academic paper. Just as the lawyer weaves their paper, the lawyer calls witnesses to the stand, uses exhibits. That's the equivalent of bringing in other voices. In this case, your actual cultural artifact. But ultimately, the lawyer never just gives the mic to the witness or just says, okay, here's the exhibit, like the end, court adjourned. No. Their voice is prominent. They're leading it. They're guiding. Okay. All right. So we talked about that. Your thesis should be grounded upon connotation. That you could do it like following this. Very important. Answer the so what question, why it matters. Here's some moves like for discovering like what you might want to do it on. Like ultimately when you're, let's say you're doing it I don't know, maybe you choose another because we're gonna do this this Nietzsche's cartoon from Dr. Seuss. So you're taking notes of things that you notice. You're like I don't know, like this character looks like that. I noticed there's one scene like that they're like going into this machine. I don't want to spoil it, but they're creating like an infinity symbol, like things that you notice, just jot down in your notes. And then you're considering, okay, after that, like what could that be indirectly suggesting? What could that mean? This is just framing like the type of thinking that you do for textual analysis. The way that something ends, you're like, okay, I noticed that this episode of I Love Lucy ends in this way. Ultimately, what's the message that as a viewer I'm left with? This is just modeling the type of thinking that you'll be doing for this textual analysis. Here's some other guiding questions you could be considering. Who's the protagonist? Who's the antagonist? What characteristics or ideas or values might they be representing? What could this be saying about the artifact's larger message? So maybe you're looking at like an anime episode. What kind of traits does the protagonist have? And then those traits are the ones that are consequently being celebrated by the anime's creator in this case, or the video game or whatever. Is any group affected by the message that this piece of entertainment connotes? Okay, representation is a huge deal in cultural artifacts, because how a group or how an idea is portrayed ultimately says a lot about the ideology behind it. What is the message that you're being left with, right? Why does this matter? What is at stake? Anything else? Be as thorough as you can with your analysis. So in other words, don't stay in the mode of just summarizing without rhyme or reason. No, go into the mode of telling me, hey, man, here's what this larger message was, a larger takeaway was. Here's why it matters. Here's how I saw it in the artifact. Here's some even connections to real life that I saw, and here's why it's important. And here's why this piece of art, this cultural artifact, has this large impact, right? Stronger papers will have more analysis than summary. What I've just listed, that's analysis. Support your claims by referencing concrete evidence. Okay, right. That's the part of that in your paper. You're saying how your artifact reflects this, right? So actual examples of how it's reflecting this larger message, right? Of things that you've unearthed, I like to call them golden nuggets that you've unearthed. So this paper should be at least 3.5 full double-spaced pages with the works cited page, obviously, because you're using a cultural artifact. Here's a distribution of points, at least 100. Sorry, not at least. Yeah, the essay is worth up to 100 points. Peer review workshop, which we're going to be doing, which I'll explain how that is going to work. That's going to be worth 20 points. And MLA, 5 points. This is 103. I hope you guys have learned your MLA format in 101. The brainstorm. Okay, the brainstorm will be due at the end of this module, so next Sunday. We'll talk about what that's going to be. Next, the workshop. You're gonna be responsible for writing a rough draft of at least 2 pages. You're gonna post that by May 5, which is for the next module. This is just FYI, just to kind of have on your horizon. The final draft is, and I'll explain the logistics of how our workshop will work in the next module. The final draft will be due May 16th. Let's take a look at our syllabus here. So we still got 2 more modules. So it'll be at the end of module 4. So write that on your wall calendar. It's important that you write down your deadlines. That's your mission control, as I like to call. It helps you visualize and look ahead at the upcoming deadline so that you can intentionally funnel all your energies into the closest deadline. So you can be intentional there with your work and your efforts. Okay. I like to beatbox. Okay, brainstorm. Here's the brainstorm we were referencing. This is going to be due at the end of this week's module, so next Sunday. Let's go ahead and click that. Let's download it. Download. We got it right here. Brainstorm. Okay, here's how it's going to work. Your cultural artifact. So, type it in. If you're choosing an episode of something, type it in. If you're choosing a music video, type in your song. Maybe, I don't know, man. What's a good music video? I have no idea. Maybe you're doing "Fight the Power" by Public Enemy, and then make sure to say what kind of cultural artifact it is. Maybe you're doing "The Giving Tree." This is a container, so we underline it, right? Because it's a book, right? Giving Tree is a book by Shel Silverstein. Book. Okay, just like we did with the textual analysis lecture, on this side is going to be denotation, and for each denotation, for each surface level detail that you notice, consider the indirect suggestion of that directly corresponding to it. So right across from its connotation, just like what we did with the propaganda posters and the Onion article. Then, this is really important. You need to have a working thesis, okay? So that is a workshop. You can choose to type this out or write it out in pen and scan or take a picture of that. And this is the assignment link. It's going to be due by next Sunday, which will be May 2 by 11:59 p.m. And this is an important one. Essentially, the task of what you'll be doing here is the task of our paper, okay? And like I said, if you like the work that you do here in the sneeches, like if you like this cartoon, you like the work that you do, and you want to continue it in your actual essay, then absolutely you can write this paper on this cartoon and on the work that you started in this discussion board. So number 1, take a paper and pen and write down the things that you notice or stand out to you. That's surface level, right? You could be like, okay, I see some sneeches with green stars and others don't have stars. I see that there's this capitalist tycoon that comes and wants to sell the sneeches happiness or something like that. But you're like, this kind of reminds me of what is, I don't want to spoil it, but what does it remind you of in real life? We just jot down notes as you're watching this. After watching this, you're going to do, for your notes, you're going to be considering, okay, I did notice, that Monkey McBean, he wants to take advantage of them and wants to sell them all these things, wants to sell them happiness. This reminds me of, and just like take a moment to write down your thoughts, because here's your real task. The task for this discussion board is to create a thesis, right? Here's the same model for a good potential thesis for this paper. We already talked about this. What's the larger message or theme? In this case of this cartoon, the Sneeches. How does it reflect this? Why this matters? Does it have any connections to real life? Check out this example for potential one for, say, the Lorax. In the story entitled "The Lorax" by Dr. Seuss, the writer forwards a perspective of eco-criticism. Through this view, the ideal of industry is vilified by way of the antagonist, who's known as the Onceler. Conversely, the ideal of nature conservation is celebrated as embodied by the story's protagonist, known as the Lorax. Okay, so we introduced the source, we introduced what the deeper message is, we introduced how it's doing it, right? How it's doing it. And now, so what? Here's why it matters. This message for the importance of nature conservation is just as significant as it is today as it was back in 1971 when Dr. Seuss wrote the story. Because still we're struggling with global warming and we still have to conserve and preserve our planet, something like that. That's just an example. Remember to also reply to at least one classmate's post, because this is a discussion board, right? I believe that's it. So the work that you do here, like I said, if you want to do your paper on this, then cool. If you want to maybe talk with someone in the writing center or with me, you want to have a Zoom meeting, please let me know. For now, just think of a cultural artifact that you've always loved, you always thought is cool, and focalize your attention on an episode, right? Not like the whole series, because that's way too difficult. Other than that, have fun with this and have an awesome week, and see you guys next week. Please let me know if you have questions.